Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races, coming to you from Australia. I'm about an hour and a half north of Sydney. We actually had a storm here last night and it's been quite cold all day. I understand you guys back in the UK are currently in 30-degree weather, bit of a role reversal, area reversal it sounds like. Much colder here in the Australia at the moment. Should be much better next week. Anyway, that's your weather update. Let's have a look at some of the races for tomorrow. There's a few races that I'm going to have to talk about a little bit earlier than ideal because it is currently 6 minutes past 10 in the evening. And obviously when these races do get their priced up, it might be a bit too late. It'll be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning for me, and I'll be in bed. So let's go through a few of them. And the first race I wanted to talk about was the 2:10 at Kempton, the Unibet London Mile Series final handicap. And the horse that really catches my eye here, so I've left the ratings open for this race to demonstrate it as well, is the top rated horse, Cathar. Now, Cathar is only a 3-year-old. He is the only 3-year-old in the race, which means there's obviously a benefit. He is getting the 3-year-old allowances. Shadwell do very well with these types of horses, 3-year-olds into handicaps or in handicaps. Very unexposed, very much an improving horse. His last time out effort behind Isla Kai wasn't too bad. He finished never near a third, really. He never really got close enough to Isla Kai and Mei Song. But I think the crucial thing here is obviously the 3-year-old. I don't think the ground quite suited him that day. Onto the artificial surface, I think will suit him. We can see he's by Kingman. They have a good record at this track. I think he is the one to beat here. And the fact that it's 41 grand prize money, I think William Haggis would have entered him in this thinking we can go really close in this. Slightly bigger field than last time out as well. 14 here compared to the 8 of last time. If you go back to when he was winning at Haydock in a big field, he didn't get the clearance of runs that day. He squeezed through, and I think the big field really suited him that day. I think it will suit again. He takes on a lot of those horses that were in behind. I mean, Helm Rock was back in 7th that day. Helm Rock has since come out and won. So I don't think Cathar was harshly treated. The fact that he went up from 85 to 91 and then found he just couldn't get past the front two in Meisong and who did I say it was? Isla Kai. But I fully expect him to run a really big race here, and it's understandable why he is the favourite. But you can currently get him available at 100 to 30, and I think that's a fair price about him. I think the 3-year-old allowance, he's just gaining more and more experience. I think he's pretty smart, to be honest, and I think he will end up in group races next season. But they might as well try and pick up a 41 grand prize en route. Second race I wanted to talk about, I've also left the ratings open for because I really wanted to demonstrate this one using the ratings, and it is, I'm quite a fan of Denmark here. Now the reason for that is, okay, first of all, he's top rated. Secondly, he's still a colt, suggesting they think there might still be more to come from him. He also set a 144.1 last time out, which was the best in the field when he was second behind Middle Earth at York. A good race that was at York. And finally, I think the handicapper. So I like horses that run in handicaps when they haven't really shown their full hand. And I don't think Denmark has, with just the 4 runs under his belt. His first effort in a handicap was last time out, and I think he was beaten by a horse who's going to end up in group races. He was beaten by the 9 to 2 joint favourite of a Melrose in Middle Earth. I think that's a good. I think he's a very good horse, Middle Earth, and I think Denmark's ran a really good race to finish second. On his first start over the trip, he returned quite quickly to Haydock for a race over a mile and 6 again. It's good prize money again. It's 51 grand to win it. And I think Aidan O'Brien's just seen a bit of an opportunity here to leave Denmark in the UK and to go and win a race worth 51 grand. And I think, yeah, with that run under his belt now at York, they'll know he stays the trip. He'd run over a mile 7 and a mile and 2. They know he stays the mile and 6 trip now. And I think with that in mind, James Doyle might give him a slightly different ride, and I think he will be the one to beat here. And he's, again, is he favourite? Nakib might be favourite. He's currently available at 3-1, second favourite, and I think he'll end up going off favourite at Denmark. I think he's the one to beat in this race. Moving on to the 250. Now, this is one where we're going to have to wait for some odds and keep an eye out for when they do price up. But the horse I like here, I'm sticking with a horse we've done before. It's Persica. So Persica, if you remember, we liked for the Goffs yearling stakes at York. Ran okay, finished 10th of 22. Never got into it really, always towards the back, never got into it. Now, I think there's a couple of things that will really help here. First of all, the step up to a mile. Even if he is slowly away, I think it won't be as important as when he was finishing or running over 6 furlongs. I think another thing that they clearly thought he was very good in the fact that he went from running in a maiden or running in a novice stakes to running just 3 days later at Salisbury. They wanted to get a win into him. They wanted to get some good experience into him before going to York. It didn't work at York. He was slowly away and never got involved. But I do think he's still better than an average 2-year-old. And I think off his current mark of 86 against lesser horses, I think he'll beat these. You know, they've all had enough runs, in my opinion, to work out their form. And I think Persica will prove to be a bit too good here. There are no odds for Persica at the moment, but the forecast odds is that Persica might not even be favourite, which would be a real surprise to me. I think Persica deserves to be less than 2-1, to be honest, and hopefully we can get more than 2-1. The next race that I want to talk about was the 3 o'clock at Haydock, and it's the Old Borough Cup. I have no idea why Garci's not running here. There's a few others that I think should be running here, but as they're not, who do I like? Well, KS Chorister obviously has a big chance. I think Tritonic will run a good race. I think Dark Island could run a big race, but I'm sticking with my good old Yukon Glen. He finished third 2 runs ago behind Sweet William and Adjuvant at Goodwood in a good race. That probably came on ground that was a bit too soft for him. He then went to York for the Ebor, and again he ran a great race. He finished 4th behind Absurd, Sweet William and Live Your Dream. He beat KS Chorister, and in my opinion he beat him fair and square, because Yukon Glen didn't have the clearest of runs either. Others behind included Posted Impressionist, Get Shirty, Adjuvant, as we mentioned, Enemy. I mean, a lot of these Yukon Glen beat. And the fact that Yukon Glen is actually coming back for this race, a race that he's won before, I think there's plenty in his favour. And it's not that rattling fast ground, which can just catch him out a little bit at this stage of his career. Good ground, I think, will really suit. I think he's overpriced. He's currently available at 10-1, and I think he should be in single figures because I think he'll beat KS Chorister. I think he'll beat Post Impressionist. I think he'll beat Adjuvant. I think he'll beat Tritonic. On this ground, I think he'll beat Get Shirty. I'd make him single figures, to be honest, and I think he'll run another big race. And we had him each way in the Ebor, and I kind of feel he's another worthy of another each way bet because you might bump into something that's very well handicapped. But I think Yukon Glen at 10s is worth an each way bet in this race, to be honest. So the next race that I want to talk about is the 420, and if you've been following my videos, you'll know who I like in the 420. Back into a handicap now. Bridestones. I thought her effort, as you know, 3 runs ago at Royal Ascot was really eye-catching when never near a 12th of 29 in a handicap. She then went to a listed race and finished 3rd, and then finished 4th recently in another listed race behind Heredia. Now, Heredia has obviously come out and franked that form by winning at Sandown, winning a Group 3. So the 4th place from Bridestones probably wasn't a bad effort anyway. Yeah, I think she can go really close here because I think her handicap marker of, what is she now, 93, she stays off 93. I think that's really the key here. I was worried that when Bridestones finished 4th in the group race, or even when she finished 3rd and listed, that she was going to go up £3-4 and waste her handicap mark. She hasn't. I thought she could win a handicap of 93. Why can't she win a handicap off 93? So yeah, I really like Bridestones here. I think everything will suit. I don't think she'll run into trouble like she did at Royal Ascot, and I'd be disappointed if she doesn't go very, very close. Bit like Persica earlier, you can only get the one price at the moment, 92. Hopefully we can get about a bit of 5s a bit later on. But I need to highlight Bridestones now so that you are all aware. 2 to go. I don't know why I've got that race open. I don't mean to have that race. It's meant to be the 0240. So the next race I want to talk about is the 0205, which is the 5+2 race in Australia, or the 5+5 race in the UK, in the Patingo handicap. And there's a horse that I picked it last time, and I'm going for it again, and it's Merlin Giant. Now, Merlin Giant won last time out on the flat when winning at Down Royal in a maiden race, rated 76, won nicely enough, cheek pieces on, didn't have to do anything. That was clearly a fitness run with the Galway hurdle in mind. Now, in the Galway hurdle, I actually thought he was going quite well until he made a mistake at about the 4th last, or pushed along in 6th after 2 out. I think it was 3rd last then. He made a bit of a mistake and actually dropped from like being in a really good position, I think 2nd or 3rd, to just falling away through the field. That was not his effort. I think once his chance had gone, Donna Mailer was very quick to not do anything on him. And that allows him to return here, in my opinion, 37 days later, potentially still, quite fresh and not having had a hard race in the Galway hurdle. I think Merlin Giant of 83 is better than that. I think he could win, or could have gone close off 137 in a Galway hurdle. So to run here off just 83, I know obviously there's less anyway, but I think it's about 40, which would make that 123. I think Merlin Giant is better than an 83 rated horse. And with that in mind, he's the one I want to take for the Patingo handicap, particularly as they've priced him up at 12s. I think that's way too big. Again, I think he'll go off single figures, and I think he'll run a really big race here under Chris Hayes. And the final race that I wanted to look at was the 540, the second of the feature handicaps in at Leopardstown. It's the Sovereign Path, and the horse that I'm quite keen on here, it follows the footsteps of last year's winner. So last year's winner was a 3-year-old. I'm a Gambler for Charlie and Mark Johnston. And I think Charlie Johnson could have the winner again with Urban Sprawl. Now, Urban Sprawl's form has tailed off after winning a good race at Goodwood earlier on in the season. He beat Calclef, Taffrige, Dark 30, Bresson, Classic. All of those have done well since. And yet Urban Sprawl actually kind of disappointed after that. He went to Epsom, disappointed, finishing 9th. He then finished okay in the Britannia Stakes, finishing 3rd, before finishing 6th of 6th, 9 of 9, and 4 of 6 at Newmarket, and Goodwood, respectively. But I think the ground has been the key for him. If you look at his form, his win at Goodwood came on good to firm. His 3rd at Ascot came on good to firm. He then went good to soft, good and soft, And I think that's clearly against Urban Sprawl. Tomorrow, it's meant to be good, potentially good to firm in places for the Leopardstown 540 race. And I think that can help him, bounce back here, bounce back to a better form. Mark Johnston knows what it takes to win this race, or Charlie Johnson knows what it takes to win this race. He gets in here off carrying 8-12, despite being a 90 rated horse because he's a 3-year-old. And yeah, I'd be disappointed if he doesn't go really, really close here for Charlie Johnson and Declan McDonough. He's currently available at 14-1, which I think is a bigger price than what he should be. So just a quick recap. In the 210, I like Catharb. I think his third place effort was good. 3-year-old taking on older horses, gets the allowance, and will take all the beating at Kempton. I like Denmark. I think he is very unexposed and will go off favourite for the handicap, having now proven his stamina. I like Persica at Kempton in the nursery. We need to wait for some prices. I like Yukon Glen each way for the Old Borough Cup. I think he'll run his race again, and I think he'll finish in the first 4. I like Bridestones in the 420. I've been waiting for that to come back into a handicap. Gets in again off 93. I think she will go very, very close. And 2 over in Ireland, Merlin Giant on the flat. I think he's ahead of his mark on the flat. And I think, who did I say in this? Urban Sprawl, back on the better going, can run a really big race for the trainer who won this race last year, despite being from England. Thanks very much for listening. I'm going to get this video up on YouTube now, and then probably go to bed.